All right, so I'm back. So, first I have two things going on today. So I am making my rustic artisan, no knead cinnamon raisin bread. So I made the dough last night and then it had to sit overnight for 12 to 18 hours just to rise. And then this morning I turned it out and shaped it into a nice ball. It had to rise for another hour. So I have it rising right now on top of the stove because it needed somewhere nice and warm. I think our kitchen is just a little too cold in the evening. So next time I make it, I'll make it during the day so it's warmer in the house. So hopefully this hour gives it the hour it needs to just kind of blossom a little more. But in the meantime, I also have my Dutch oven in the oven preheating, so it has to be in there for a half hour to get hot itself, and then we'll place the dough in there and bake it for its allotted time. So that's one thing we're doing today. Super excited to see how it turns out. But the other thing, so I'm sure you probably saw the picture yesterday. So a friend of mine posted she had a box, literally a box of ripe bananas, and they are ripe bananas, and they are a whole grocery store box case of bananas. So she is fabulous and she volunteers at one of the local food banks. So they had them, and obviously it's one of those things that most people really don't want them. I would imagine because they're past really eating. They're more baking at this point or just discarding. So they gave them to her and said, here, make some stuff. But while she's a chef and a fabulous chef at that, she is no baker, she'll tell you herself. I don't think that's true. I think she could probably bake if she wanted to, but hi Heather. Anyway, I said, well, I'll take them and I'll bake. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bake, but I'm gonna turn all those baked goods around and she's gonna take them back to the food bank for the volunteers. So super excited about that. So what we're gonna bake today, I have a whole slew of things I'm gonna bake in the next couple days, but today for the video, we're gonna do banana oatmeal chocolate chip cookies. And one of the reasons why I chose this is because I'm gonna make a ton of these. I'm actually going to make the recipe 12 times. So that way we use up a good chunk of these bananas. But also, just so you know, cookie dough, you can freeze it. So if you have an overabundance of ripe bananas, or say you just have some stuff you need to get rid of, you know, depending on where you live, some ingredients, they won't last as long. So like flour, if you have flour and you live in a warmer climate, you can't just leave it out on your kitchen counter for a year. Eventually it will get bugs in it, and I hope that you do check that before you bake, that you look to make sure that you don't have bugs in your flour or your oats or whatever, you know, those dry goods. But you should be storing, if you live in a warmer climate and you have those things, really you should store them in the freezer. It's a great place to store them. They'll keep longer and they won't get the bugs. Anyway, just a little FYI. So, but it's a good way to get rid of some of those things. But the great thing about the cookie dough is you can freeze it, and then you have cookie dough in your freezer. So if you have unexpected guests pop by and so you want to make dessert, or say you have a friend that, you know, just recently had a baby and you want to take something over to their house, you can take some cookies. Or if you need to take a plate of cookies or something somewhere, school, church, whatever it might be, you have it readily available. You just pop it back out of the freezer and bake it. So frozen cookie dough, once you put it in the freezer, it'll last up to 3 months if you have it in a good, like a nice freezer bag or a freezer container. And then when you bake it, you just take them out, plop them on your cookie sheet, bake it per the recipe with maybe a couple extra minutes on there since it's frozen. And that's it. Like, you don't have to let it defrost. You just bake it right out of the freezer. So super simple, super easy, and you know, you can use up those ripe bananas. So anyway, so what we're gonna do, so I have most of my stuff already measured out. It just makes it easier for the video so you guys aren't on here for like an hour. But I have all of my stuff. So the recipe calls for, and mind you, I'm doubling this right now. So I'm gonna make this 12 times and I'm gonna double. So I'm gonna make it 6 actually, but 12 times the recipe. So I need, per the recipe, since I'm doubling it, I need 2 cups of all-purpose flour. So we're gonna get our flour out. So, and remember, oh, I thought I got one out. Hold on one second. I got my trusty little butter knife. I got my flour. I'm gonna level off my cup here. I'm gonna get my 2 cups of flour out. Now, one little interesting thing I wanna tell you. So if you are watching this video and you're like, I can't have flour, I'm gluten-free, or I'm dairy-free, or you just personally decide that you're vegan or whatever and you don't eat animal byproducts, which is totally fine. I personally can't live without bacon in my life or cheese, but to each their own. But I have a little nice little thing if you guys hold just a second. So me, okay friends, so all is not lost in the world. So I'm gonna share this recipe later with you guys with this video. But if you're somebody who, so for the most part, everything in this recipe is vegan friendly. So the only thing that it's not vegan friendly is it does call for an egg and it does call for butter. But you can, in place of the butter, this is really great. So Earth Balance, hopefully you guys can see this, Earth Balance, they actually have a vegan buttery stick. I know. It really actually works just like butter. So I use it in my scones when I'm trying to make something that's friendly for everybody to eat. It comes in little sticks just like butter, measured out just like butter. So you can use this. You can find it at pretty much any local grocery store. You know, I got it at our little grocery store here in town, and we live in the middle of nowhere, so they had it. But you could probably get it at Vaughn's, Albertsons, wherever. And if you shop at Whole Foods, I'm pretty sure they have this. So you can use this. The other thing is if you're somebody that, and then for the egg, there's lots of different things. You could do a flaxseed egg, you could do a chia seed egg. You could also substitute banana for that egg. So it would put a little bit more banana into your cookie, which is fine, but you can do that. I believe, don't quote me, I think that the ratio is a half a banana per egg. So, but you can Google that, it's super easy. And you can also find how to make the chia egg or the flaxseed egg. There are other egg substitutes out there, but I've never used them. Usually if I'm gonna alternate out eggs, I use the banana. So anyway, so there you go. You can make this vegan friendly. The other thing you can do is if you want gluten-free, and I'm gonna totally just, this is it. I don't use any other flour if I'm doing gluten-free. I always use the Bob's Red Mill gluten-free baking mix. Now, Bob's Red Mill has 2 gluten-free baking mixes. They're both 1-to-1 ratio, so you can take any recipe that you have, that you grew up with, that you like, and switch it out. 1 cup of flour for 1 cup of the gluten-free baking mix. However, the 2 different gluten-free baking mixes are completely different. They're made with different flours, so they have a different texture consistency. This is the one I like. This one is spot on to regular flour. I make things with it all the time, and I have people who eat it and have no idea that it's gluten-free. They think it's just a normal whatever they've been eating. It's not dense. It's not, you know, kind of gets that ugh when you eat gluten-free stuff sometimes. So this is great. I get this at Albertsons. You can pretty much find it most places, but they do have different size bags. They have a little bag like this. It comes in a bigger bag. You can also buy it online, whatever you want. The only thing with this one is you're gonna have to use xanthan gum. So Bob's Red Mill has xanthan gum. It lasts a while. I've had this package for a bit. And right on the back, it has a nice little nifty chart, depending on what you're making, how much xanthan gum to put in there. So if you were gonna turn this recipe into a gluten-free recipe, we would use 2 cups of this flour, and because I'm using 2 cups of flour, I would in turn use a half a teaspoon of the xanthan gum. So the xanthan gum is just gonna help mimic that gluten-y aspect of normal flour. So anyway, that's just a tidbit. So not all is lost in the world, friends. You can still have fabulous cookies, whether you're vegan or you're gluten-free. But I do want to say, if you're somebody who wants to bake something that's gluten-free for a friend or somebody like that, especially if that friend has got a super high tolerance against gluten, wash everything down. So wash your counter, make sure that everything is washed before you use it. That way you don't cross-contaminate anything, because you can get microparticles of the gluten from normal flour. If I'm gonna bake multiple things and I'm gonna do a batch of gluten-free, I always do the gluten-free first, so that way I don't get any aspect of what I'm doing is going to be contaminated, because I don't wanna make somebody sick, especially if I'm telling them it's gluten-free. The other thing you want to do too is oats are not always gluten-free, depending on where they're processed. So if you're going to make something that's gluten-free and you're making, like, say, this oatmeal cookie recipe, just make sure that your oats are gluten-free. So there are quite a bit out there. Bob's Red Mill actually sells a package of gluten-free oats, and they guarantee that it is gluten-free. So just be mindful of that. All right, so in saying that, so I've got my 2 cups of flour that I need. I already measured out my baking powder and baking soda and my salt, so it's in here. So I'm just gonna dump that on top of our flour, and then we're gonna sift that. So we're gonna get that, just sift it really nicely into our bowl, so we get all our lumps out and we have a nice smooth flour. So we're gonna do that. So we've got that, so we're gonna put that. We're just gonna set that aside because we don't need that right now. That's gonna be kind of our little last thing that we'll do there. So we'll do that. So the other thing we need is we need to cream our butter and our sugar together, and we need to mix our butter, our sugar, and our eggs and our bananas. So I didn't do this part yet. So we're gonna get our bananas, we're gonna peel them, get them into the bowl, and I'm gonna mush them up. You know, everybody loves ripe bananas. Not really. I do not like ripe bananas. I prefer my bananas green. Anyway, and sorry for the sniffles. I promise I'm not sick. My allergies have been absolutely out of control. Our weather has been warm, cold, rainy, warm. So everything is growing right now, and it is sending me over the edge, but I don't want to overdose on allergy medication because that just makes me tired and I don't like it. So anyway, so I'm gonna get some of these little stringies out because it just grosses me out. All right, so we got our bananas here. We're gonna get those in there. So this recipe called for 2 medium overripe bananas. So I actually put in, I had a couple smaller ones and then 2 larger ones. So that'll even us out there. So, let me grab a fork. So just a fork. I'm gonna mush these up real quick. Get them all nice and mushy and ready for mixing into everything else we have. Now, as you're mushing it down, you just kind of want to make sure you just get the big chunks kind of broken up, because those chunks are going to stay in whatever you're making, whether it be the cookies or banana bread. This way you just make sure that you get more of an even disbursement of your banana in whatever you're making, so when someone bites into it, it's not this ginormous, I mean, not that having a ginormous chunk of banana is bad, but it just ensures that you're going to get more banana throughout whatever it is that you're making. And if your banana has some dark spots on it, that's totally okay. I mean, that's the whole purpose of the overripe banana, right? Plus, as bananas ripe, we all know you get more of that banana flavor. So I told my friend when I picked them up the other day, she actually went through, I met her through, well, actually small world in this little town we live in. When we first moved here, I bought my kitchen table from a local family. And then I met my friend Heather at my Master Preservers course that I was taking with the University of Idaho Extension Program. And found out she lived here just over the road from me. And she was absolute doll, by the way. But she, a Come to find out, I had volunteered at something here in the town, and then Kate was there, and then her husband was there. Well, she wasn't there when I picked up my kitchen table, but my kitchen table came from her. So, small world. So when she introduced me to her husband, I was like, this is funny. So, anyway, when I picked up the bananas yesterday, I said, hey, I looked online, and you could have made banana jam. And she just looked at me, which I agree, gross. I'm sorry. Anybody out there that likes banana jam, by all means love banana jam, but it just sounds horrible. It's a banana butter jam recipe, so like apple butter, but with bananas. I just can't. I just can't, people. It just sounds horrible. But I guess if you love bananas, more power to you. But I guess next time we have a giant thing of ripe bananas. I think these ones are a little too overripe to make jam with because you really don't want all the brown stuff, I guess. But still, banana jam. It's wrong. It's wrong, people. Okay, so we got our bananas all mushed up. See, they're all nice and mashed, mushed. So now we're going to, and I have to apologize, I'm usually a little bit more organized, but apparently I oversought the fact that I need one more little bit larger bowl to cream our butter. And my house, even though this butter has been sitting out on the counter since yesterday, my house is just kind of chilly. And my countertops, because they're stone, I guess I should just find a different place to set my butter. It's still a little kind of hard, even though it's room temperature, so I'm actually going to use my electric mixer, hand mixer, to cream it with the sugar. So just give me 1 second to get that out of the cupboard. And get an additional bowl. So I prefer not to use my electric mixer in my glass bowls just because the sound annoys me. So we'll get the mix, put our things in. So my glass bowls, it's one of those sets that has like all the way from really large down to really teeny tiny. When I got married, well, I've always been fascinated with the cooking shows since they've been on television, but I always thought it was so cool that when you watch the cooking shows, they have the little tiny bowl of salt and the little bowl of flour and like all their little things all measured out, and they're in all these little cute little bowls. So when I got married eons ago, well, not really eons ago, it's 19 years this year, that was one of the things I registered for. I really, really, really wanted a set of nesting baking bowls. And so Charlie's grandma had bought them for me. And so I use them all the time. I love them. But I use them when I have something that has a lot of ingredients. And I use them for other things too. But I usually use these little red and white ones. The red is kind of a rubbery material, so it makes it so it doesn't slide on the counter. And my grandma and grandpa, my nanny and grandpa, got these for me when I first moved to Southern California. She sent them to me, and I use them all the time. And they actually have a really cool lid that goes on top that has a hole in the middle that you can, if you're making something like whipped cream or something more liquidy, you can put your mixer in there and it won't splatter all over the place. But anyway, and then my mixer, I've had for a long time too. It's a little KitchenAid one. I will tell you, so while they're a little bit more expensive, they do last a long time. I've had this since we've been married, and my stand mixer is a KitchenAid, which I love, but like I mentioned in my last video, I'm lazy and don't like cleaning it, so I don't use it too often. And really, because it's the professional size, unless I'm making a huge batch, which actually it would have been perfect for these cookies, I could have done the whole entire batch 12 times in the mixer and not have to do it multiple times. But this is a little bit easier too. I can kind of control what I'm making and putting into the freezer or whatnot. So anyway, so we need our butter. So I'm doubling the recipe. So we actually only need 4. This recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of butter softened. So because I'm doubling it, I only need 4. So I just need a half a stick of this. So I'm gonna get that. This is a new recipe for me. I got it off of a blog, and it had good reviews and several people have made them. So, and they looked good. So I figured we'll try it. I am interested to see how they come out because it doesn't have a lot of butter in it, but I also think that it's probably, they'll probably come out kind of moist and nice because of all the banana in it, because it has quite a bit of banana. So we'll see. So anyway, so we got our 4 tablespoons of butter in here. It's soft, but it's not super soft enough that I can do it by hand. Now it has quite a bit of sugar. So we have regular sugar and brown sugar. So I got the regular sugar and the brown sugar. Now, if you're like me, when I'm doing my brown sugar, even when I buy it from the store, sometimes it has those little really hard, darker brown clumps in it. So if I see them, I'll kind of mush them. If they're rock solid hard and you can't mush them down, I'll pick them out, because no matter what you do, they're not going to get soft. And nobody wants a rock hard pebble of brown sugar when they're biting into something. Anyway, so we got our sugar in here, so I'm going to cream these together real quick. Not having a ton of butter almost defeats the purpose of creaming it. Okay, it's almost just making more of a mess than it is actually creaming anything, but what do you do? So, Nico will like it. I got a little bit of sugar on the floor. He is for a dog, he's a sugar addict. He loves sugar. Charlie can be eating something that has like a, you know, Jolly Ranchers, and that dog will stand there like, oh, give me one. His big thing at Christmas was he loves candy canes. So his grandma sent him a candy cane, but we didn't let him eat the whole thing. We just let him lick it a couple times, and that was it, because really he shouldn't have it, but he absolutely just loves sugar. So I got a little bit on the floor, so I'll just leave it there for him. Okay, so I'm gonna add in my bananas to this, and I'm also going to put my eggs in. So we needed 2 eggs. Throw those in there. I think this will make it a little bit easier too to mix up everything that's in here. Have a little bit more liquid. That's as good as that's gonna get. All right, the rest I'm just gonna do by hand because that's just easy to mix in the other stuff. So we got our wet ingredients. So we have our flour. We're gonna mix that in. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm gonna put the wet ingredients into the flour mixture. So make sure we get everything out of this bowl. Our nice wet mixture. Get everything out of the bowl so it's nice and we utilize everything. I don't miss any of the good stuff. All right, so we have that. So we're gonna just mix in our flour with our wet ingredients. Now it's still gonna be pretty liquidy because I haven't put the oats in yet, but I wanna get the flour in first and then we'll add in the oats. And as you're stirring it, you just wanna make sure that you're just occasionally scraping the sides so that you get all your flour and it's all mixed in real well. Don't get anything left behind. And again, since you had your electric mixer out, you could have totally just used it to mix this, but like I've said, I prefer just to do it by hand. Okay, so all my flour is mixed in. I scraped the sides, the bottom. So there's our mixture with the flour and wet ingredients. So now we're gonna dump in our oats. So this called for 1.5 cups of oats. Since I doubled it, we needed 3. So I'm gonna dump those in. I'm gonna mix that in. It's gonna give us that better cookie dough texture once we've added this in and mixed it. All right, so now we got our oats mixed in there. So hope you can see that. So we got our oats mixed in. So the last thing that we need to, oh, you know what I just forgot? I just realized. This is what I get for trying to make a video. Yeah, I missed our vanilla. So that's something that will definitely be missed. So I'm just gonna mix it in real quick. It really should have went in with the wet ingredients, but it's not gonna kill us for me just to hand mix it in. So I need 2 teaspoons of it since I'm doubling. So we're just gonna do that real quick. And again, if you can bring yourself to do it, use real vanilla. It's much better than the imitation. I know it's a little bit more expensive, but it'll last a while. The bottle will last a while. You can get it at Costco. There are other places you can buy it. Costco has a good price for it because it's basically a bulk size bottle. You could also go to Smart and Final and get it, but it's just better quality and you don't get that imitation taste, personally. And I am just a huge thing. I would much rather have pure ingredients than artificial ingredients. That's one of the things, like real sugar and things like that. I'm not a big sugar-free person because, well, you're switching out for things that for most part are not real. I mean, there are a lot of sugar substitutes that are plant-based, but that's all right. Anyway, so we stirred in our vanilla. So next we're gonna do chocolate chips. So the recipe calls for 1 cup of chocolate chips. You could, if you wanted to, let me turn off this just so it doesn't beep again. That's letting us know that our Dutch oven is ready for us to put our bread in. So you could, if you wanted, you could add in some chopped nuts. If you wanted nuts, you could do, if you wanted to do that. It's not gonna alter the recipe to where they won't bake. But I would put in, maybe at that point, do your half and half. So do like a half a cup of nuts and a cup of chocolate chips. Even if you did a cup of each, it's not gonna be a huge ordeal. So this is calling for a cup. So this first batch I'm actually gonna do with dark chocolate. So there's my cup. Now, personally, there's no such thing as too much dark chocolate. Well, there's just not really any too much chocolate in general. So a bag is usually about maybe a cup and a half. So I'm actually just gonna put the whole bag in there because it's not gonna make a big difference. And then I don't have a partial bag of chocolate chips that haven't been used. So we're gonna mix those in. So now this dough, cookie dough, all different cookie doughs tend to have a little bit different consistency depending on what kind of a cookie you're making. This dough is a little wet. So what I'm gonna do before I roll them out into balls and put them in the freezer, I'm gonna actually just cover this with some saran wrap and I'm gonna put it in the fridge for a little bit so it can harden up just a bit and make it a little bit easier to make all the cookie dough balls. That way I can get everything all nice and even and then too it's not such a mess, because I think right now if I tried to make little balls with this, I'm gonna have a huge mess all over the place because it is so sticky right now. So my Nico dog just found the sugar on the floor, so he's checking that out. Okay, so we are going to clean off our spoon here, get all of this in here so we don't leave any behind. All right, so so we've got our cookie dough. Like I said, it's a little wet, so I'm gonna put some plastic wrap over it and then stick it in the fridge. Probably put it in the fridge for about an hour. That should be sufficient enough time to get it a little bit more manageable, so I can roll out some cookie dough balls and then get them in the freezer for later. So we're gonna do that. So I'm gonna stick that in the fridge in just a second. So while I have you here, so I told you I had made that bread dough last night. So it's been sitting for an hour. So let me just get this ready. We're going to get out some parchment paper. Now, parchment paper personally is my favorite thing. So when I'm baking, especially cookies and things like that, line your cookie sheet, parchment paper, plop your stuff on there, and then when it comes out and you switch to the next one, you can put a fresh piece of parchment paper down and it cleans super easy, nothing sticks. It's way better. And then you're not greasing things and whatever. So like I told you, I had the Dutch oven in the oven. It was preheating. So it's preheating. That was what the beeper was. It's done preheating. So I'm gonna take that out. We're gonna put the cookie dough, or we're gonna put the bread dough in it, and then we're gonna bake it. So it actually, my recipe's right here. We are going to bake that for 30 minutes. And then after 30 minutes, I'm going to take the lid, well, we're gonna bake it for 30 minutes with the lid on. So what this does, I was reading up on it, so it kind of creates this environment like a professional baking, where it gets that steam and it gives it that nice crusty exterior. So after the 30 minutes, we're gonna take the lid off and let it brown a little bit more so it gets that nice color on top. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab our dough, because it had to sit for another hour. So it did get bigger from when I originally put it in the bowl. So that's a good thing. That means, and it smells nice and yeasty like it's supposed to, and it smells cinnamony. So we're gonna do that. So I'm gonna take this out and we're gonna stick it right here in the middle of my parchment paper, because then we're gonna take that and we're gonna put it in the Dutch oven. So one of the things it has you do, and I think that makes it so it's gives it those nice pretty whatever, is to score the top of it. So I'm gonna make a few cuts across the top, and hopefully we get some nice marks on it when it comes out of the oven. I don't know. I guess we'll see. Okay, so I need some pot holders. This thing's gonna be hot. Hopefully you guys can see from over there still. Buddy, you stay there. so super excited. I'm using my Pioneer Woman Dutch oven that I got for Christmas. This is the first time I'm using it, people. I'm super excited. Okay, so I'm gonna pick up my dough, and we're just gonna plop it right in here. Whoop. And get it nice and even without burning myself. I don't know if we've got enough room in there. I don't know how much bigger this is going to get in the oven. But we're just going to go for it. Put the lid back on. Okay. Grab it. Stick it back in there. Timer. "30 minutes, people." So we'll see how that comes out. It's gonna make the house smell amazing. So anyway, so cookie dough. So in an hour, I'm gonna take it out. I'm gonna roll them up into little balls, about the normal size you would when you're baking your cookies. And then I'm gonna put them on a cookie sheet lined with parchment paper, just because it's not gonna be part of the video. And then I'm gonna put them in the freezer for a bit, for like an hour. Or two, and let them kind of get more solidified. And then once they've been in there, then I'm gonna take them out and just put them in a freezer bag, and then just throw them in the freezer. And like I said, 3 months, they're good for in there. And then as you need them, you can just take them out, bake them per your recipe, just add a couple extra minutes, so because they're frozen, and you're good to go. So you have cookies on hand whenever you need them. But anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. It's a little all over the place, I think, but it's always good. But you guys can make banana chocolate chip oatmeal cookies and use up some of your ripe bananas. And or if you just want to go and get bananas and let them ripen so you can make banana cookies, but any kind of cookie. So if you want to make chocolate chip cookies or oatmeal cookies or sugar cookies, you can pre-make your dough and throw it in the freezer. So enjoy. Hopefully you guys are having a good time at home and learning some new things. There's all kinds of free lessons and things out there right now on the internet, you know, virtual field trips and cooking lessons and all kinds of things. I came across one the other day. It was free lessons during this whole COVID-19 period for learning graphic design. So there's all kinds of cool things out there. Do some research and find things for yourself to do or for your kids to do, but enjoy it and make the best of it. And, you know, don't let the madness and the being cooped up in home keep you from enjoying life. So I will chat with you guys all later. I will post pictures of the cookie dough as I roll it out and put it in the freezer, and I will also post a picture of my bread once it's done, and so you guys can see it. And then when Charlie gets home, I'll have him taste test it, and we'll give you guys the rundown. So anyway, have a great day, and we will chat with you guys all later. Bye.